What if I told you a case that sat unsolved for decades was finally cracked, not by detectives, but by college students? And when they uncovered the truth, raised a bigger question. How was this missed for so long? This is the disappearance of Cynthia Gonzalez. It started in Arlington, Texas. In September of 1991, 25-year-old Cynthia Gonzalez was building a life of her own. At the time, she was working as an adult entertainer, a job that often meant late nights, unpredictable schedules, and meeting people she didn't always know. On the night she disappeared, she was last seen leaving her Arlington home to go meet with a client. That was the last time anyone saw her. At first, nothing about that seemed unusual. Late nights were part of her routine, and being out of contact wasn't completely out of the ordinary. But when she didn't come home, and hours turned into the next day, her husband reported her missing. No one could say where she went after leaving. There were no confirmed sightings, no clear timeline, just a gap investigators couldn't fill. Then, just days later, her body was found in a rural area of Johnson County. She had been shot multiple times. Investigators moved quickly. They retraced her steps, spoke with the people closest to her, and tried to figure out who she was meeting that night. But that's where things started to break down, because the closer they looked, the less sense things made. And for some, there's always been a question that lingers. Was this case taken as seriously as it should have been? Did her profession affect how this case was handled early on? And when a case stops making sense, that's when investigators start looking closer at the people involved. In this case, there were a few directions that stood out. Early on, investigators uncovered a connection that raised questions. Cynthia and another woman, Janie Perkins, were both involved with the same man. That introduced a possible motive: jealousy, conflict, tension that may have been building over time. Investigators did speak with Perkins early in the case. There were inconsistencies in statements and even polygraph results that raised concern. But polygraphs aren't admissible in court, and without physical evidence, nothing moved forward. So the question is, was this a dead end, or something investigators were closer to than they realized? Do you think this case points to someone close, or something else entirely? But there was another possibility, one that came directly from Cynthia's life at the time. She had left that night to meet a client, someone she may not have known well, or at all. Which raises a different kind of question. What if she crossed paths with the wrong person? A situation that escalated quickly and left almost no trace behind. Cases like that are incredibly difficult to solve. No clear connection, no obvious motive, just a moment that went wrong. And if that's what happened, investigators may have been looking in the wrong direction from the very beginning. Years later, when the case resurfaced, people online started asking the same questions. On Reddit and true crime forums, some users suggested that investigators may have been close early on, but couldn't prove it. Others believed the focus may have been split between someone she knew and someone she may have met that night. Now, to be clear, these are theories, not confirmed facts, but they highlight something investigators often face. When there are too many possible directions, it becomes harder to see which one matters most. Because the theory that keeps coming up is this: what if the answer wasn't hidden, it's just overlooked, buried in statements, connections, or details that didn't seem important at the time? And for decades, that's where the case stayed, unanswered, until someone finally looked at it differently. More than 30 years later, the case was reopened, this time with fresh eyes. At the University of Texas at Arlington,
we launched a new partnership with UTF. The students can devote significant time. The students were given Cynthia Gonzalez's case.
Students began reviewing cold case files, including Cynthia Gonzalez's case. They went through everything: statements, evidence, details that hadn't been questioned in years. And then, something stood out. Something that pointed investigators back to a name they had seen before. That led to new witness information, and ultimately, a major breakthrough. Janie Perkins, a woman who had been connected to Cynthia from the very beginning. a woman connected to Cynthia through the same man, and a lead that, at one point, went nowhere. In November 2025, Janie Perkins was arrested for Cynthia Gonzalez's murder more than 3 decades later. But the story didn't end there. Because in 2026, case was presented to a grand jury. They declined to indict, not because the case was solved, but because there wasn't enough evidence to move it forward. Do you think there wasn't enough evidence? Or that something still isn't being seen clearly?